Hey guys, it's Mike. Welcome back to another Infinite Insights video. And in today's video, I want to talk about another very important topic, and that is how to communicate effectively, how to have a cohesive, coherent conversation with someone and have it be receptive, right? Have it be not just a one-way street, but a two-way street where you're both understanding each other, you're both enjoying the conversation, you're both learning a little bit from each other. So, in my opinion, the number one way to communicate effectively is to first be an effective listener. If you can be an effective listener and not just hear what the other person has to say, but actually digest it, actually contemplate it. Make sure you hear every word that they say. Analyze it, right? And a great way to be a good listener is to kind of get outside of your head a little bit, right? Get outside of your mind, get outside of your thoughts when you enter into a conversation. When you enter into a conversation and you want to communicate effectively and you want to be a great listener, don't make the conversation about you. As soon as you start to make the conversation about yourself, there's a little bit that's lost in translation. There's a little bit that is missing from what you could be experiencing, what you could be communicating. So when you go into the conversation, and again, at first, you might have to actually tell yourself, like, okay, I'm about to talk to this person. Let me focus on them, right? It might be an actual thought that you have to remind yourself of before you enter into the conversation. But eventually, with enough practice, with enough exposure to this method, you won't have to think about it. You'll just enter into the conversation. You'll automatically be focused on the other person, right? So remove the attention from yourself and place it on the other person. And when your thoughts come up, if there's any thoughts of judgment or there's any thoughts of criticism, kind of put those aside and just pretend that they were never even there to begin with, right? Because they're not going to really serve you in the conversation. And when I mean criticism and judgment, I mean negative criticism and judgment about the person that you're talking to. Like if they say something or they have an idea and then a thought comes into your head that's like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. Like they don't have enough experience, like, or they're exaggerating. Like this is just nonsense, right? So you want to take those thoughts and you want to put them aside and just kind of don't even entertain them. Don't even entertain them. Again, refocus yourself. Put the attention back onto the other person and what they're actually saying, right? So the most important step is to be a great listener. If you can be a great listener, that you will have accomplished the majority of the battle. Because when you become a great listener, you're not really thinking about, oh, how should I respond to this? You're not even really thinking about yourself. You're totally immersed in the other person's story, or you're totally immersed in the tale that they're weaving, because that's really what a conversation is. It's kind of like a story that's unfolding. It's kind of like a tale that is being presented to you. So the more open your mind can be about the conversation, the more effective you can be at communicating with them. So right? Step one is to be a great listener. And a second part that I would say is don't just focus on what the person is saying, right? So there's kind of like another layer to effective communication. There's the actual content of what they're saying and the story that they're weaving. You want to be immersed in that. You want to put your full attention on that. But there's also another level of communication, and that's body language. That's body language and basically how they're moving. Are they shifting to one side? Are they, putting their hand on their face? Do they seem like jittery? Do they seem anxious? Right? Because you can kind of pick up on these things outside of what they're actually saying. In fact, most of the time, emotion is conveyed through the body. So if you can become perceptive and become aware of how their body is moving, how their body is shifting during the conversation, you will have an intuitive sense of how that person is feeling and what kind of ideas they're trying to convey to you. So you want to be a great listener, and you also want to pay attention to their body language. That part, these two parts are absolutely key, right? Because most people, they just listen with their ears. Most people just say, oh, what do you have to say? Get to the point type of thing. but they're missing out on the subtle body language. And the subtle body language is telling another story, right? So sometimes the words and the body language will not match up. And then you'll be able to tell, oh, this person is a little conflicted right now. He's telling me one thing, but his body is telling me something else. So obviously that's another, I can make a whole video about that topic, but that's another layer to being an effective communicator. And basically the last thing that I'll mention here is that you want to make the other person feel as though you're listening, right? You want the other person that you're talking to really kind of feel your focus and feel your attention and your care to what they have to say. And a great way to do this is reiterate what that person is conveying to you. So if they're talking about, oh, I had a bad day, this and that happened to me, and they go through the events of the day, and they point out specific things that happened to them, you can start responding by saying, oh, so when this and this happened, or when you were doing this and this, right? So you're reiterating what that person already told you. And this is actually a good thing because it's letting the other person know that you're really listening. You're not just hearing sounds, right? The worst communicators are people that just kind of like listen with one ear, or they're listening with this ear, and then with this other ear they're listening to the television, or their their mind is going in other directions. So and they won't be able to precisely say what you just told them, right? Because their attention is diverted. So the best way to show a person that your attention is focused is by reiterating what they just said, by reiterating what they said and then adding a new layer to it. So saying, oh, this and this happened to you, so you might be feeling this way, or here's something that can help you with this situation, right? So reiterating and then following that up with a suggestion, or kind of like trying to feel out how they were feeling in that moment. That's another great technique, is to reiterate the event that they're talking about and then try to pinpoint, oh, so were you feeling this way about it, or were you feeling this way about it, right? So that way you're really letting the person know, like, oh, he's paying attention to me, and then that way the conversation can go even deeper, right? And basically, in a nutshell, that is effective communication. So to go over the points, it was be a great listener. It was pay attention to the body language, right? That's kind of connected with the listening part. And then for responding, you want to reiterate what the person is saying and then add your own personal layer to it to show them you're really paying attention and that you're actually putting care into what the other person is saying to you, right? Because at the core level, effective communication comes down to care. It comes down to care for what the other person is saying. And if you can convey that to them, then most of the battle is already accomplished, right? You're already a good communicator at that point. But obviously, if you're not used to this, it's going to take some time, take some practice. A good way is to talk to your family members, kind of practice it that way. Talk to people that you don't have anxiety about talking to, right? Talk to close friends, people you're very familiar with, maybe people at work that you see a lot, that you're comfortable around. Practice these tips with those groups of people. So that's going to conclude this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this Infinite Insights episode. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. I'm posting pretty much either every day, every other day. That's my schedule for the foreseeable future. So make sure you don't miss any of my content, because I'm going to be putting out some good stuff for you guys in the future. So stay tuned for more.